Hello and welcome to Monday's Granada Reports. We are live with the latest across the northwest.
Hello there on the programme this evening.
Detectives launch a manslaughter investigation after the death of a newborn baby girl at a hospital in Manchester.
Oscar Carrick took his own life while studying at university. Today, a campaign led by his parents has reached Parliament.
Manchester City edge closer to making history after beating their rivals to an FA Cup win. Next stop, the Champions League trophy.
We catch up with Adam Diver, the former soldier who became the first person to swim from England to the Isle of Man.
You could hear the TTs, the motorbikes going round, but at that point I was struggling. It was like swimming through treacle.
And in the weather, as with these pictures, there's a bit of a theme forming. All the details coming up.
So please do stay with us. But first tonight, to the news that detectives are investigating the death of a newborn baby at St Mary's Hospital in Manchester. Polly Lindop died within 24 hours of being born.
Well, Greater Manchester Police say they are now investigating possible gross negligence manslaughter. Let's cross live to Tim Scott now. What can you tell us, Tim?
Well, Vicky, Polly Lindop was born here at St Mary's Hospital in Manchester on the 13th of March of this year, but she never made it past her first day of life. Concerns were raised to the coroner and the police about her death, and today Greater Manchester Police announced they are now investigating that death with a view to bringing a possible charge of gross negligence manslaughter. GMP's Detective Chief Inspector Mark Davis said a number of hospital staff have been spoken to as witnesses by officers and no arrests have been made at this point. The Hospital Trust has been fully cooperative with the police and all relevant authorities have been kept informed. The investigation into Polly's death is ongoing and her family will continue to be updated in relation to any significant developments. Paying tribute to their daughter, Polly's family said, as Polly's parents, we'd like to thank everyone at GMP for their continual efforts every day in gaining us answers. Our beautiful, brave baby girl Polly, we love you and miss you every day. Sleep tight, my darling. Now, Polly's mum, Kimberly, also told me earlier that Polly's death was unexpected by all and she simply needs to know what has brought us to this point. A hospital spokesperson confirmed the investigation is taking place and said they are cooperating fully with the inquiry. Vicky Gamal.
OK, Tim, in Manchester, thank you.
Well, next tonight to a campaign for better support for university students backed by bereaved parents from the northwest is being debated tonight in Parliament.
Maxine Carrick and Gary Potts from Kendal lost their son Oscar to suicide in 2021 while he was studying in Sheffield. He just celebrated his 21st birthday.
They're one of many families calling for universities to have a legal duty of care for their students and have been a leading force in the campaign. Our political correspondent Alicia McNally is in Westminster for us tonight. Alicia.
Yes, Vicky, and that debate is still going on in Westminster Hall, just round the corner from me. A really important moment for Oscar's parents who want to make sure no other family gets that phone call that tears your life apart. What they want specifically is for higher education providers to have a legal duty of care towards their students who they fear are falling through the gaps. Schools have a legal duty of care towards children, as do an employer when an adult enters the workforce, but in the middle things get a bit muddled, and there are warnings that higher education providers don't know what their obligations are when it comes to student mental health or what parents should be told if somebody is struggling. Now, Oscar's parents say a change in the law would bring clarity and uniformity right across the board, and they're watching that debate very closely right now.
Nervous, hopeful is the main one. I'm hopeful that things are going to change. It's not going to change today, I know that. But if we can start that ball rolling, that would be a really positive thing.
We are optimistic, yeah. We feel like we've got a really, really strong argument and we feel like we've got support and we're all really, really motivated to carry on and see this through.
Well, we expect an education minister to get to their feet within the next hour or so to set out what they plan to do to work with bereaved families to find areas where support for student mental health can be improved. But the big question for families is, will they commit to a change in the law? The government has previously said that there was no need for further legislation because universities already have a general duty to support the welfare of students. Well, that's not enough for Oscar's parents, and it wasn't enough for the MP for Stretford and Urmston.
The response appears to fall somewhere between the nothing to see here approach, that this would be a disproportionate response as suicide rates among students are relatively low, and the why regulate when this happens anyway argument. Except if this happens anyway, what is the problem with regulating existing practice?
So strong feelings today, both in and out of Parliament. Campaigners say they need to see action to tackle suicide prevention right now to take on what they say is the biggest killer of the under-35s in this country.
OK, Alicia, thank you very much indeed.
A 9-year-old boy suffered significant injuries after a Zorb ball left the water at a festival in Southport. It happened yesterday afternoon in Victoria Park. The boy was inside the ball when it unexpectedly lifted into the air and landed on the grass.
The family of a grandmother who was stabbed to death in Tameside have described her as selfless, loving and their rock. Michelle Hodgkinson was attacked on Friday in Droylsden. A man's been detained under the Mental Health Act.
The Mayor of Greater Manchester says he's received backing from businesses for an underground HS2 station at Piccadilly. Andy Burnham met the Northern Powerhouse Partnership, which is made up of industry leaders, along with City Council leader Bev Craig. They said it will help provide the best high-speed rail link for Manchester.
This is a fight that we will never concede. You know, I could not kind of look myself in the mirror in, let's say, 10 years' time if I knew we'd just caved in and accepted a second-class option for the north of England. I'm in this job to fight for the best that we can get here, but also what's right, because other parts of the country have had this investment.
Well, next, the police, fire and ambulance services, who were heavily criticised for making mistakes after the Manchester Arena bomb, say they're now far better prepared to respond to terror attacks.
Yeah, the families of some of the 22 people who died listened in to today's hearing, looking at what progress has been made since a public inquiry made a series of recommendations.
They heard North West Ambulance Service admit to their frustration that training up their staff was a big challenge that could take years. Our reporter Anna Yusuf joins us now from Manchester. Anna, what more can you tell us?
Well, this is a crucial stage in the investigation. It's a chance to show that the inquiry really is making a difference. We know that there was a catalogue of failings and mistakes by the emergency services and other key figures involved. A fire service who didn't turn up for 2 hours, a police service who didn't communicate, and an ambulance service who only sent in 3 paramedics as people lay dying, desperate for help. Well, today those organisations face questions about the progress they've made to ensure that those failings, those mistakes aren't repeated. We heard from the Deputy Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police, Terry Woods, who said a structure put in place by GMP to learn lessons after the attack will remain.
It's never not going to be in the DNA of GMP. It's important to us. That is one of the reasons why this will carry on.
The arena also heard from, the inquiry also heard from the arena's operators, SMG, who were also responsible for making sure that people stayed safe. They say that they have made significant changes and installed medical equipment like stretchers and blood kits at the arena. They also said that they are hugely supportive of Martin's Law, a draft bill that's being spearheaded by Figen Murray, the mother of Martin Hett, who died at the arena, calling for venues to have a legal duty to assess if there is a risk of a terrorism threat. This is what Figen Murray had to say today.
What gave me sort of shivers down my spine was when he said something like the arena attack is in the DNA of GMP. That stood out for me, and I think that summed it all up. That's been really a wake-up call for not just the police, but I think a lot of the agencies involved.
And Anna, the inquiry's also heard that North West Ambulance Service has been struggling to implement some of its recommendations.
That's right. Well, the service said that it had improved and tested plans to increase the numbers of ambulances and specialists sent to a major incident. Their director of operations admitted it was very challenging to get all their staff involved in major incident exercises, which was one of the inquiry's recommendations. He said it's going to be years before we get in the best position. North West Fire Control said that their staff training had improved, but that a training exercise in October 2022 had highlighted that there were still issues with communication. Now, the limitations of a public inquiry mean that there's no legal obligation for any of the public bodies involved to implement the recommendations. But as the chairman pointed out, if they don't, it's pointless. And for those families who have suffered so much, it's essential that the organisations who failed don't fail again.
OK, Anna, Yusuf, thank you.
Lots to come on the programme coming up.
Time to talk about the treble. Pep eyes at the Champions League trophy after City's FA Cup win over United.
And in the weather, sun's out again. Many of us seeking a little bit of shade. I think you know which way the forecast's going, though, and it's going to be subtle changes on a single theme over the next few days. All the details coming up.
Well, next, and we're launching this year's search for a fantastic fundraiser to represent our region at the Daily Mirror Pride of Britain Awards, and we need your help.
We do indeed. It's time to say thank you to all of those people who work tirelessly to support charities and good causes of all sizes. Here's our Zoe Muldoon with how you can get involved.
The Daily Mirror Pride of Britain Awards is one of the biggest events in the showbiz calendar. But it's the real people, not the celebrities, who are the stars of the show. And each year, one fantastic fundraiser gets to represent ITV Granada Reports and attend the awards in London. They're even in with a chance of winning the overall ITV Regional Fundraiser of the Year award. Last year, our regional fundraiser was Martin Hibbert, who climbed Mount Kilimanjaro for charity despite being paralysed from the waist down in the Manchester Arena attack. And now we need your help to find this year's ITV Granada Reports winner. Here's the awards host to tell us why.
The Pride of Britain Awards are all about the special people who make our world a better place to live in. And the ITV Regional Fundraiser Awards is where you come in, because we're looking for those people who go that extra mile to raise money. We want you to nominate them. Now, it doesn't matter how much money or how little they raise. This award is all about how they're doing it, why they're doing it, and their selfless determination to inspire others.
So, if you'd like to nominate someone to be our regional fundraiser of the year, you can head to our website. That's itv.com/Pride of Britain. You can only nominate individuals and they must be aged 18 years old or over. If you are under the age of 18, please get permission from a parent or guardian before you nominate. The closing date for nominations is Sunday the 6th of August at 11:59 p.m. Full terms and conditions and our privacy notice can be found on our website.
OK, time for sport now, and history awaits Manchester City. Hello, David.
Yeah, they've done the double. Now they're targeting the treble. City will go to Istanbul for Saturday's Champions League final, knowing they're one win away from sporting immortality. They're closing in on history after beating their neighbours United in the first ever all-Manchester FA Cup final. And after winning the cup, well, City were given a special welcome home by a music legend. Celebrations for City. Commiserations for United after the first ever all-Manchester FA Cup final.
Come on, City!
United! Well, Reds and Blues descended on Wembley in their thousands to be part of this historic fixture.
Come on, United! Come on, City!
Come on, you Reds!
Very confident. Why? Because we're just going to win them, aren't we? Easy. Very easy.
Easy. Yeah. So is this the next step to the treble then?
Yeah, 100%. If we can do what we did to Real Madrid, then we've got no problem.
How are you feeling ahead of this one?
Excited. We've had a good season. It'll be the icing on the cake to a fantastic season. Yeah, feeling good.
We've got to stop City
Feeling
having that
excited.
treble.
What would it mean to beat United to do this?
I'd rather lose next week and win this one. Yeah, definitely.
This is the big one for you.
This is definitely. Can't lose to these. Yeah. We've got to beat these. You know, yeah, it wouldn't be worth getting back home tonight, would it?
What's it going to be like for whoever loses?
You know, we have to travel back together, so I drove here. It's going to be a quiet journey either for me going all the way back, or I could just leave him behind me.
Footballing legends from both sides of Manchester delivered the famous cup to the final. Sir Alex Ferguson and Mike Summerbee know all about winning this trophy, but even they've never seen anything like this before.
That's Gundogan!
Ilkay Gundogan's goal, the fastest in cup final history, after just 12 seconds. Well, a helping hand got United back into the game when they were rewarded a penalty for handball by Jack Grealish. Bruno Fernandes dispatched, to the delight of those in red.
It's 1-1 in the cup final.
But the City skipper outdid his United counterpart to be captain fantastic and win the cup. Premier League champions are now the FA Cup champions. They've done the double and now their attention turns east to Istanbul. One more win next week in the Champions League final will spark yet more celebrations and see the club complete a historic treble.
Yeah, now is the first time I can talk about the treble. It's the first time we can, because it's one game away. Everything will not be complete if we don't win the Champions League, so we have to do it.
We had a really good season. Where we third place, Champions League qualification, we won a trophy.
How are you feeling?
Amazing, absolutely amazing. Nothing's going to beat this.
Bit gutted, but you know, before the game started, they was probably favourites to win. And you know, we didn't get battered.
Can't get better than beating Man United in the FA Cup final. It doesn't and get deserve much to better. Beat them as well.
We've had it good for a long time, and I know it's not been recently, but we'll be back.
The double is done, the treble is on. What would it mean if you could do that?
A dream come true, having supported City all my life.
So despair for David, but Liam was loving it. And City got a star-studded welcome home as Elton John handed out hugs and stopped for selfies as the squad arrived back at Manchester Airport. Well, City are still standing in the Champions League. Next stop destination Istanbul, and potentially sporting history. Well, a decade ago, Wigan Athletic actually beat Manchester City to lift the FA Cup. How times have changed as Wigan are now dealing with financial troubles, relegation and points deductions. It's a club in crisis, but could there be a glimmer of hope with new owners taking over? Aaron Lau reports.
My vision is to restore the club and stabilise it in order to bring it back to the championship.
Those were the words of Wigan's Bahraini owner, Abdullah Rahman Al Jasmi, when he bought the club to take them out of administration 2 years ago. Despite promotion back to the Championship in his first season in charge, it's been anything but stable. This year with multiple managers, wages paid late, relegation and a points deduction. Last night, the ownership group released a 3-line statement which said a deal had been agreed in principle for the sale of the club to a new buyer, subject to EFL approval.
The current regime, I think, you know, is well past the sell-by date with what's been happening over the past few months, so it really needs a new owner to come in, but it's shrouded in mystery. Nobody knows who it is, and you wonder if you're out the frying pan into the fire.
It's been 10 years since Dave Whelan and his Wigan side lifted the FA Cup. Since then, they've been relegated from the Premier League, and this season staff have gone unpaid, as well as them being relegated to League One. But with the prospect of new owners, it's hoped that the club can get back to its glory days. Having captained Wigan to the FA Cup, Emerson Boyce believes the club needs new owners to steady the ship.
As I say, we had the glory days in terms of staying in the Premier League and winning the FA Cup and playing in Europa League. The fans have seen the ups, obviously they've seen the downs, but I think that, like anything, I think they just want to make sure the club's sustainable now, make sure it's got a future, because we don't want to be in a position where we're worrying about the club again.
Those worries still remain at the club, but talks are ongoing between authorities to protect its future.
We have an idea of who they are, but obviously any deal is subject to EFL approval. The key for us is that any new owner has the best interests of Wigan Athletic at heart. We've been in this situation too many times in recent years.
Fans hope by resolving the club's off-field troubles, it will help those on them and bring Wigan back to the wonder years. Aaron Lau, ITV News.
Yeah, we will, of course, keep you updated on any developments there. Well, one side on its way back after being kicked out of the league 4 years ago and going into administration is Bury Football Club. Following a merger with Bury AFC, the new unified club has been given permission by the FA to play under the name of Bury FC next season. They'll be back at Gig Lane, playing in the North West Counties Premier Division. Well, in Super League, it was a record-breaking magic weekend for St Helens's Tommy Makinson. He ran in 4 tries to score 28 of Saints' 48 points as they thrashed Huddersfield. That's the most ever by one player in a game at the Magic Weekend. Elsewhere, Lee were also winners at Newcastle St James's Park. Despite having a man sent off, they beat Wakefield 30 points to 4. And Salford scored 2 late tries as they won 26-16 against Hull KR. Sadly, Wigan and Warrington both lost. Now, I started with trophy success. I'm going to finish with another. It's congratulations to Rochdale's Kira Walsh, who won the Women's Champions League with Barcelona. It's been quite the 12 months for the Lioness, who won the Euros with England, of course, last summer. And I don't know if it's a good omen, but she also used to play with Manchester City. So there you go. Could that mean that City are going to win the men's one on Saturday? Who knows?
What do you think of their chances, David?
Well, many people were saying that this FA Cup final was going to be more difficult against United than against Inter Milan. Of course, United wanted to stop them from doing the treble like they did. Who knows?
The stakes are high.
Who knows? For the English side, for our local side. Come on, we can be biased, can't we? When it's Europe.
We can. Thanks, David.
Let's see what happens. Finally, to one man, he spent the weekend enjoying a well-earned rest after braving everything the Irish Sea could throw at him to complete an epic 32-mile swim from England to the Isle of Man.
Yeah, 32 miles. Former Army captain Adam Diver became the first person ever to complete the challenge, fighting strong currents and jellyfish stings along the way.
Back home in Fleetwood, he's warmer and drier and has been reflecting on what he's achieved. Here's Paul Crone.
Back on dry land after his amazing swim across the Irish Sea to the Isle of Man, Adam Diver has had time to catch up with work colleagues and process his record-breaking feat. And as Adam neared the finish line, he recalled his near physical and mental exhaustion.
You could hear the TTs, the motorbikes going round, but at that point I was struggling. It was like swimming through treacle. So the last 4 or 5 miles of getting into the Isle of Man wasn't getting any closer.
The 48-year-old former Army captain, now a psychological wellbeing practitioner, says his support team, including 2 kayakers, was vital to the success of the swim and enabled him to get his head down and keep ploughing through the water, although there must have been times he wished he'd caught the Isle of Man ferry.
It's a bit of a strange feeling when you swim in open water because you don't think of anything really. You just basically blank your mind from anything. You have no worries. You're not stressed. So if you are that person you're overthinking, when you're actually swimming, it actually just releases everything and you're just in your own little world.
Even though the actual distance to the Isle of Man was 32 miles, Adam ended up swimming 46 because of the currents and the tides, and there were times when things looked a little bleak.
I got stung on the face. I think it was a lion's mane jellyfish. It was a big red jellyfish which really took it out of me. I was swimming against the current at that point as well. And I think Kev shouted me thinking, right, we're not actually moving here. We could actually be going backwards in the sea. And at that point, I was thinking to myself, have we done the right thing? This is the reason why it's not been done before, because it's just so challenging with the currents and the tides.
Adam was raising money for the Burnley-based Healthier Heroes, which helps armed services veterans cope with social isolation, homelessness and improving mental health. He also hopes his swim will inspire others.
I'm hoping that somebody watching this, some up-and-coming swimmer, could do it in a better time. I think it can be done. I was under no time frame, so I think that somebody will be able to do it in a lot quicker time than me. So I'm hoping that I've just opened the door for somebody to do it in a faster time.
But for today, Adam was just quite happy to sit on a bench in the sunshine. No arguments there, Adam. Paul Crone, ITV News, Fleetwood.
I'd have called it quits as soon as the jellyfish got anywhere near me.
Oh, that's one bad thing about the good weather. It does
Yeah.
bring the jellyfish out. There's loads on the beach near me at the moment.
No, thank you.
But let's get rid of the jellyfish. What's the weather doing?
Mum, wet wipes, toilet or bin?
Bin. Why?
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello there, hope you've enjoyed your Monday. As far as the weather goes, it's more of the same. I have totally abandoned any headlines because you know what's coming. High pressure in charge, so staying dry, fine and settled. It's just subtle variations on a theme over the next few days. Some gorgeous shots though from around the region. If there's anything which this weather does, it means it gives you a great backdrop there, and our region is absolutely beautiful, is it not? So taking a closer look, high pressure's in charge. It's that big sprawling high up to the north of us. It's just gently wobbling around a little bit. It moves slightly eastwards over the next few days, and by this coming weekend, well, things will turn warmer with a slight change in wind direction to more of a southeasterly. However, there is an approach of an area of low pressure from the southwest here, but I don't think that's going to affect northern England. I think it's just going to affect the south and the southwest there, but we'll keep an eye on it for you. So rewinding to the next few hours, some fine late sunshine on offer, a little bit breezy through southernmost parts of the coast and across the Isle of Man there, but elsewhere light winds. I think the big difference tonight as opposed to last night is that the cloud will wash a little bit further westwards than it did last night, and so cloudier for more places, temperatures holding up, 1 or 2 isolated mist and fog patches. There are your sunrise and sunset times for tomorrow. Sun's up 4:43, sets at 9:36. Tomorrow morning, standard temperatures to start the day. A little bit cloudier than it has been of late initially, but then that burns back. There will be some good spells of sunshine once again across the Isle of Man. 1864, 2068. So slightly down on today's values. High UV wherever you are. So there is the potential to burn even in the breeze, even in the cloud. Again, slightly suppressed temperatures on Wednesday, but they bounce back on Thursday. Here's your pollen.
Cleaned up well.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello, summer. Piri sponsors ITV pollen count.
So then, spectacular picture there from Ian. Thank you for that. The grass pollen season's in full swing. There's also some dock and plantain spores airborne, fungal spores as well. Counts high over the next few days. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Emma. Well, tomorrow we've got all the glitz and glam from the red carpet of the Soap Awards, just over the water here in Salford it was, so do join us for that.
That's going to be fabulous. I'm back with the late news, but for now, I do hope you enjoy what is left of your evening.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Good night.